is Varsha Ramachandran, and today my partners, Philip, Isha, and I will be discussing the Tulsa race massacres before, during, and aftermath of the event, and the socioeconomic consequences that it had on the Black.
Hey everyone, this is Philip reporting for the Daily News. Today is 6 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Greenwood district of Tulsa, a site that had once been a sign of prosperity for African Americans, is now reeling from the site of unspeakable destruction. Tulsa is a city with a population of 100,000, 10,000 of whom are African Americans. Tulsa was a place of stark economic division. Before the event that occurred on Thursday and Friday, the Greenwood district in Tulsa stood as a sign of Black economic prosperity and resilience in the face of widespread economic destruction. Often referred to as Black Wall Street, it was the second largest African American community in the world at the time. But beneath this prosperity were simmering tensions and resentment. The U.S. had just come out of the Spanish flu, one of the deadliest diseases to date in the Great War, which had just ended 2 years ago in 1918. When Black and white troops came home, they faced economic instability and had to compete for jobs, adding to instability to American society. Moreover, many African Americans often escaped the South for more jobs in various cities across the U.S., including the city of Tulsa. But the success in Tulsa's Greenwood district challenged the racial hierarchy, creating resentment among its white residents. According to a study by Avi Bandari, Tulsa was a center of Black economic success, with flourishing businesses, a good community, and a thriving economy. As a wealthy Black community with nice homes and good opportunities. As a center of emerging Black success, Tulsa opposed the expected racial balance of power at the time. Black people were expected to be poor and desperate for employment and thus willing to accept degraded positions and discrimination. In other words, Tulsa had become a vision of a better life for all Black people. A booming oil industry, as well as improvements in infrastructure, allowed Greenwood district to develop. But while Greenwood thrived, segregation still ensured that the Black community was separated from the white community and remained excluded from broader Tulsa. For Black Tulsans, this was both a threat and a victory. For white Tulsans, a self-sustaining Black community is seen as a threat. The Ku Klux Klan is growing at an alarming rate, and along with the dangerous ideology of white supremacy, the fear of Black success, along with economic hostilities at the time, contributed to the ensuing conflict. Despite all the prosperity that occurred in Greenland, Black residents often lived in a society that encouraged racial violence. As Avi Bandari once again explains eloquently, the perpetrators of the Tulsa Massacre specifically focused on eradicating sites of Black success, as these were the most threatening to the ideals of white supremacy that pervaded American society at the time. The white police officers deployed did not protect the citizens, but instead strove to destroy and abolish all Black businesses and nice residencies. Now, on to Isha, who has been reporting on the site of the massacre that took place.
White mob's lynchings deeply affected African Americans who wanted to protect their victims from that form of racial violence, but they also wanted to protect their families and community. 7-year-old Yola Fletcher, a survivor of the event, stated, "I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see Black men being shot, Black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see Black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams." Fletcher told lawmakers, "I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot." Many African Americans like Yola have been completely stripped of their loved ones, identities, homes, and most importantly, jobs. These residents no longer have a source of income and have had to leave establishments and connections they built in Tulsa. Many families are deeply concerned that they will now be unable to pass down property and wealth because there is no entity to even pass down. The Oklahoma government and law enforcement currently leave no statement on whether they will provide victims with reinstitution or reimbursement, allowing African Americans to rebuild homes and businesses. Without this money, many will be forced to leave this once thriving and lively community. Many former residents have already started leaving for cities such as Memphis, St. Louis, and Kansas City, according to a source. Now to Varsha, who has more on the aftermath of the events. Thank you, Philip. According to a source, the lynchings that took place in Tulsa occurred as a consequence of the belief that African Americans cannot be more successful than Caucasians, a belief rooted in white supremacist ideologies. During the devastating massacre on May 31st, white mobs started targeting African Americans, young or old, that belonged to the prominent Black community and economically successful Greenwood district. 19-year-old Dick Rowland was falsely accused of attacking a white girl and arrested and put in jail in the Tulsa courthouse. Rowland was then supposedly taken out of jail by a white mob who planned to lynch him. The rising amount of racial violence geared towards African Americans could no longer be tolerated. A statement given by an African American district resident who was getting ready to head to the Dreamland Theater to take action for the racial violence. A riot began at 10 p.m. as African Americans protected their fellow citizens from being murdered and attacked by white supremacist mob groups. It became more and more intense, lasting for days, and in the period, African Americans were sent to confinement similar to concentration camps, and their entire community was destroyed. Houses, residential and office buildings, and significant community areas were burned down and completely gone. People could only exit the camps if they were vouched by a white person to be authorized to leave. By noon on June 1st, almost all of the Greenwood district houses and buildings were burnt down, leaving thousands homeless.
Hi everyone, my name is Varsha and I'll be talking about how the aftermath of the destruction of Greenwood left deep economic scars and had lasting multi-generational effects on the Black community as a whole. Starting off, let's take a look at research from Alex Albright and his team at the National Bureau of Economic Research, which provides statistical evidence that demonstrates the long-lasting economic damage caused by the massacre. Albright's study shows a significant sustained decline in black home ownership and occupational status in Tulsa in decades following the event. Black families in Tulsa saw a sharp drop in home ownership rates and career advancement, with data indicating that these effects were not temporary but grew worse over time. We find the massacres associated with decline in home ownership and lower average occupational status. These effects were not temporary but persistent and actually grew over time, Albright notes in his study. This statistical evidence paints a clear picture of how the massacre's impact extended far beyond the immediate destruction of homes and businesses. The ripple effects were not confined to Tulsa alone. The massacre's extensive media coverage, often justifying the violence, spread fear and economic consequence throughout black communities nationwide. In areas where newspapers report on the massacre with support for the violence, black communities faced even larger economic declines. These spillover effects intensified over time, as the destruction of Greenwood reinforced the idea that black economic success was a threat. In 2021, Viola Fletcher, the oldest surviving witness of the Tulsa Race Massacre, testified before the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, sharing her harrowing account of the violence and destruction she endured as a child. At 107 years old, Fletcher called for justice and reparations for the lasting trauma and economic devastation caused by the massacre, becoming a powerful voice in the fight for recognition and restitution. Art has also played a crucial role in capturing the trauma of the massacre. The Greenwood Art Project seeks to ensure that the resilience of Greenwood and its people is never forgotten, using public art to share the story of Greenwood's rise, fall, and continuing spirit. As Jerica Wharton, the project's director, powerfully said, Tulsa's story is America's story. It's a building, it's resilience, it's community. It didn't stop 100 years ago. This project not only honors the past, but also helps to build a foundation for a future where dreams, unimpeded by violence, can thrive. As Wharton emphasizes, the story of Greenwood is far from over. The lasting economic scars of the Tulsa Race Massacre remind us that while the destruction of black wealth may have started a century ago, the fight to rebuild and reclaim those dreams continues. Alex Albright's research shows how the effects of that violence has persisted across generations, highlighting how systematic racism continues to shape economic opportunities for black communities today. The struggle to rebuild is ongoing, and its impacts are still deeply felt, demonstrating how historical events can shape the futures in ways that are both profound and enduring. Thank you.